Hello, people. Today we're going to be talking about Dan Versus, which is a TV show, a cartoon show, actually. It's not a video game. I know, it's a first. It's crazy. I don't even think in the history of my channel I've ever reviewed a cartoon TV show. So this will be interesting. Today we're talking about Dan Versus, which is a cartoon that was on the Hub Network. That's kind of a fun fact, but just to give you I don't know if any of you guys are experienced with the Hub Network or whatever, but it's definitely you can tell it seems like a Hub Network show, I guess. I don't really know if you know what I'm saying. Like you watch it and I don't know. It reminds me a lot of I found myself comparing it to Littlest Pet Shop and My Little Pony, because those are the only really other two Hub shows that I was super familiar with. And then I just rediscovered Pound Puppies, and now I'm like, oh man, I gotta watch that and see how it compares to that. But so as I was watching Dan Versus, I was just kind of comparing it to My Little Pony and Littlest Pet Shop, because those were, I don't know, they're kind of similar. I don't know, I mean, they were both on the Hub, and it was just interesting seeing how they compared, because they do some things differently, and I feel differently about them. And ignoring the fact that the My Little Pony and Littlest Pet Shop are both pretty girly, ignoring that and just looking at the entertainment or whatever. Anyways, where was I going? Anyways, yes, talking about Dan Versus. Let's get into it. And how do I feel about it overall? So I guess I don't know how helpful this context is, but I started watching it maybe a little bit ago, like at least a month ago, if not 2 or 3 maybe. I was aware of it before then. I don't know how. I just know I'd seen it, like clips of it somewhere. Some people talk about it highly, and like make it sound like it was an underrated show. And from the clips I'd seen, it didn't seem bad. It seemed kind of interesting and appealing, somewhat humorous, somewhat interesting. Didn't seem stupid, really, from the clips I saw or whatever. But that was ages ago, and so that was just the impression I had from what little I was aware of. And so I checked it out because they're basically free episodes on YouTube right now. I've been, I say watching, but really I've been primarily just listening to it. So for a few months ago, I experienced it. I experienced like the first season, and so when I did that the first time, I don't know. This context probably isn't necessary. I could just talk about it in general. I'm thinking about it now, and I don't think there's any meaningfulness to get from giving you this context. My thoughts have kind of changed on it over time, but not drastically. And they changed over a very short period of time recently. Anyway, so I'll just say, since I've already talked about it, I listened to it like a few months ago, listened to the first season. And then, I was like, this doesn't seem worth it or anything. And then I came back to it, revisited it, like this past week. I don't know really what made me do that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think I was listening to I was listening to My Little Pony, I think. And then I was like, man, this is very, I'm not caring for this, but I wonder, I don't remember, I couldn't figure out if I thought I was more engaging than Dan Versus. And so I think I went back to Dan Versus. And because the thing about Dan Versus is that, okay, I guess, and I don't know, I haven't really gotten to talk about this, but when engaging in any entertainment media that's not video games, that's like performance or something, and it's primarily verbal, I guess. I think there's a better word, like oral, or no, linguistic, I think was the word. Linguistic verbal, when that's primarily the entertainment of some sort of entertainment media. The biggest thing that I always care about first and foremost is how engaging the dialogue and the performances are. And yeah, so that supersedes just about everything, I think. Like supersedes story, supersedes art or how things look. My the biggest influencer on whether or not I will like a show or movie or whatever is how engaging and pleasant, I guess, or at the very least non-cringy I find the dialogue performances, or just the vocal performances, I should say. And so with Dan versus that wasn't totally relevant here. That's just a general. I hope I don't need to bring that up in future. Maybe I've been thinking I might need to make a video where I just explain all my criteria for how I grade things, or why I'm even doing these, or like what is a 6 out of 10. I don't even know if I've mentioned that. But yeah, so maybe that clarification would have been better suited for a broad general video. But I figured I'd bring it up here. It's just cause. Anyways, so yeah, that's so with that. How does Dan versus do in the biggest thing that I care about, which is vocal performances? How does it do? I think the vocal performances are all good. I think they're all good. I think they're all and I guess I'm just trying to make sure I word that well, because a vocal performance can be good, but just because it's good doesn't mean the what they have to say is good, or it doesn't mean everything they say is good. And a vocal performance can definitely help make things that would otherwise good vocal performance can definitely make bad dialogue sound better, or not sound not bad, even sound good, maybe depends on the vocal actor. But I'd say all the vocal actors here are engaging, at least to me. I think they just ignoring the dialogue or whatever. I think all their performances are good, and I think that's I think I think that's cool, because yeah. Anyways, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm stuttering a lot. So vocal performances are good. And then after that, though, the dialogue is very mixed. There's a lot, I feel like, and it's to the point. It's so weird. It's to the point where I'm thinking like maybe I should do like a react video where I play the video and then I like pause it every 5 seconds or something like that. Like where people will say a line, and then I will like score it on a scale like 1 to 10. It's probably wouldn't go any lower than a 5 for this show. Where like 6, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. I should probably just know that I don't really know. I'm so mixed up. Anyways, just know, I guess, that I've been considering scoring it just because I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me just tell you that it's very mixed. The performances are good, but the dialogue is mixed, and a lot of the jokes are not that funny. And there's so many jokes. It's constant jokes. 90 to 95% of the show is jokes. It's just joke line after joke line after joke line. Usually, I mean, there's some story thrown in, and like every other line feels like there's a joke. At least any scene with Dan in it, there's almost every line he says is like meant to be comical, basically. And that's not, if they were funny, that's not bad, but so many, I feel like, of the jokes he makes are not funny. And that goes for a lot of the jokes, not just Dan, but Dan is primarily the one. He's primarily on screen a lot, and so a lot of the bad jokes come from him. But it comes from it's just throughout the show. And for preface, I thought I had seen all of season 1, but I realized that I hadn't seen all of season 1. There were a few episodes, so I'm revisiting season 1. But I also just saw like 1 or 2 episodes maybe of season 2, maybe just 1. And so far, I haven't been wowed with what I've seen. I don't think the. I guess I could say that I could see that the show is maybe underrated in a sense. Like I think there's a like it does some. It's unique. It's entertaining, I guess, in a way that I don't know. It provides an entertainment quality that I don't know many other sources to provide, but it's still not good. It's still not like it's not worth going out of your way to watch. I don't think necessarily. I think you can definitely like try it, and maybe you'll like it more than me, or maybe you'll find it sufficient. But it's not one. I don't underrated. I don't know. There needs to be a term for things that are underrated, in the sense that like they are as good or slightly better than things that get a lot of attention, versus underrated, which is like actually good, like 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 stuff that's actually underrated. And I'm just now thinking, I'm not sure which actually people usually use. I assume whenever I hear underrated, I think this is like 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. I think that's what most people mean when they say underrated. But I feel like this is underrated in the sense that, you know, it's slightly better, or it's as good as, you know, things that people really like that are popular, I guess. But I don't know, that might have sounded a bit too vague and not even. I don't know. I hope you get what I'm saying. Anyways, but so yeah, I'd say that's the underrated quality of this show, because it can be entertaining. There are not all of the jokes fail, and it's very interesting because I was comparing it to My Little Pony, and again, I was just watching like the first few episodes of the first season, so it probably changes. But at least the first few episodes of My Little Pony, it's not at all any attempt at humor in My Little Pony is not good. I don't think. I don't. Not much makes me smile or anything like that in My Little Pony anytime they attempt a joke. Yeah, and they do attempt a lot of jokes and stuff, but I don't know, for a while I was having a really hard time figuring out which I like better. For a while I thought My Little Pony was better, like just because from what I had experienced in the past months or whatever, what I had remembered of what I experienced the first time I was going through Dan versus. From what I had remembered, there were just too many stupid jokes, and not only that, I guess now we can get into some other things, but just it's very it kind of feels like a someone like with a. It seems like the quality of something that could be like a YouTube series, or like some YouTuber made it, and they just had really, really good actors, and I guess decent animation, though the animation can be really awkward and pretty bad looking. But yeah, that's just a side note. But yeah, and I say that it feels like it could be by a YouTuber in the sense of how it's written, because there are a lot of dialogue and lines that just feel so, I don't know, like bad, stupid, and like really unreasonable, and like kind of like they're coming out of nowhere and just pointless, and just like, why is this here, and this is not funny, and why are you filling time with this bad line, or why is this character saying this seems. And most of it comes from Dan and Chris, and then even most of it comes from Dan. And I get there to an extent, Dan can be like it's reasonable for Dan to be unreasonable in the things that he does, but he says a lot of, I don't know, he has a lot of stupid lines and does a lot of unreasonable things, and more than just being a jerk, because his whole character is he's like a jerk, and he's, I don't know, just very unpleasant to be around. He's like Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb, but like a complete jerk, and not at all, not really relatable at all. I mean, he's like, Doofenshmirtz is, you know, you can empathize with Doofenshmirtz. I think most people can, and he's just like, he feels like an average guy with just who deals with problems, who feels like tackling his issues in a very extreme way. But like he's a very down. I feel like you can have definitely a casual conversation with Doofenshmirtz. That is not the case with Dan. He's a very much a like something's wrong with him. But and so with that, it's reasonable for him to be like, he can be exotic, he can be obnoxious to a point, but he also has to be like somewhat reasonable, like just, and this is where I was talking about like going through an episode and just scoring lines, because that I know when I do these videos, I'm speaking very broadly and vaguely. I'm not at all citing too many examples, and I don't have anything off the top of my head, but I just feel like he says a lot of stuff that, like, I don't know, it just feels like, I don't know, it's only there. I don't really know. I was gonna say it feels like it's only there to be funny, maybe, and except it's not usually, and sometimes it is, but usually it's not. But because he has moments where he's I'm gonna drink water. He has moments where he's like kind of got an endearing relationship with his buddy Chris, but the majority of the time he's a total. I mean, like, you could have, I don't know, I might need to do a part 2 and just talk about things more, because there's a lot to talk about, and I was initially like talking about why I was having a hard time comparing it to My Little Pony and Littlest Pet Shop, but now I'm talking about I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know where to go from here. If I should go back to My Little Pony, if I should keep talking about the lines. I don't know. I'll just talk about. And we'll see where this goes. What am I doing? Yeah, I'll go back to My Little Pony, because I don't really know what I was saying. So I was having a hard time comparing it to My Little Pony, as well as Littlest Pet Shop too. But mostly My Little Pony, because initially I had thought that Dan Versus was, the attempts at jokes were just so many and so failing most of the time. And even though there were lots of moments, or not lots, but like a decent amount, a significant amount of moments that like made me smile, at least. Sometimes there were like, I would not usually laugh, but sometimes I would laugh. I don't know, not I mean, yeah, sometimes I guess is reasonable to say, but moments sparse throughout each episode that would make me smile, or and so that's, for what that's worth, that's something. Versus My Little Pony, don't really get any of that. I don't think it's a lot rarer when that happens. And however, Dan Versus is so much more obnoxious and stupid with the lines, I feel like, versus, and poorly written. I feel like that's fair to say about Dan Versus. A lot of the lines feels poor, and even just where the story goes is just feels very awkwardly written and not great. Versus My Little Pony, the problem with My Little Pony is, yeah, nothing's really funny, and the drama. My Little Pony is, at least the first few episodes that I watched, is a lot more drama oriented, and none of the drama is very like legit drama, or like I'm not feeling, oh man, this is a real situation, dang man, and it's not very entertaining or humorous to me. It's just kind of like I'm engaged to this 6 out of 10 acting, and it's interesting, I guess. It's stimulating to hear voices that aren't I don't know, but I didn't mind the attempts at humorous jokes or whatever, at humorous lines in My Little Pony. I think it's just because it's a kid's show. Most of the lines don't feel as I don't know, they just didn't bother me as much, and maybe they didn't feel as egregious. I think it helps that a lot of there's not as many attempts at jokes in My Little Pony, though there's still a lot. And they don't, I don't think, they rarely work, or are rarely worthwhile, I think. But they just don't feel as egregious or as offensive, or like I'm not feeling as stupid listening to the jokes. I don't know, and maybe that's just because it's a kids show, and so I'm in my mind it's just like it's harder for me to be offended by a kids show versus I don't know a more adult oriented show. I guess it doesn't feel like an adult oriented show, but you know, an older audience oriented show that's like maybe I just expect more from it, and the fact that the show is primarily jokes, and the fact that those jokes fail a lot more, maybe that's why I thought it was more egregious and more painful, and like My Little Pony was almost better than Dan versus, just because I wasn't being as bothered by the lame jokes and lame writing. Not to say that My Little Pony has great writing or anything like that, but it's, I think, at least more consistent, or it feels like they have a better direction, feels a bit more professional, I think. And like, yeah, versus Dan versus, so much of it is just, I don't know, feels like kind of random, and like they're just writing things to, I don't know, fill lines, make jokes that aren't funny, and I don't know, that kind of thing. But I realized, yeah, just, I was going a little bit of a tangent here, but My Little Pony is just not a lot, it's just not a lot of enjoyment to be had, really. It's just stimulation on a very low level, and it's not painful. Like, if I was on a car ride, a 2-hour car ride or whatever, I'd rather listen to My Little Pony than nothing. But like, would I rather listen to My Little Pony or Dan versus? I think I'd rather listen to Dan versus. I think it's just a bit more stimulating, even if I have to deal with more stupid jokes. I realize just like, I think it also, yeah, it's just more stimulating. While it's got more lows, I think it's also got more highs. It makes me smile more, engaged more, and even if I feel like it's not great writing, but yeah. So yeah, but then, and this is probably gonna have to be a different episode because I don't even know how I feel like ranking it, comparing it to Littlest Pet Shop. Not that Littlest Pet Shop is a great show or anything, but Littlest Pet Shop is like My Little Pony, but funnier, I guess, and not weighed down by drama as much. And so when that happens, how do I feel like comparing it to Dan versus? And that's interesting. But yeah, it's probably gonna have to be another video because I'm already at 20 minutes. But I guess what else to talk about? So yeah, that's writing. It's interesting, but I think I realized it's engaging enough that I'd prefer the highs and the lows of Dan versus over just the blandness of My Little Pony. And maybe I'll do a future episode or something where I don't know, I check out more episodes of My Little Pony, or maybe even check out more episodes of Dan versus and the newer seasons, because initially I felt pretty confident that Dan versus was not worthwhile. But as I'm revisiting it, I'm like, this is stimulating enough. I'm not, I wouldn't mind like listening to this more. But yeah, so that's that. And so now I guess we can just talk about other aspects of it and how I feel. So, oh gosh, and yeah, we'll see how. Yeah. Anyways, Dan, I was saying oh gosh just because I wasn't sure how long this was gonna last me. But I need more water. So let's talk about the characters now. So Dan is it's very interesting. He's a jerk. He's not very nice, and at least for most of the first season, he's very he's pretty hard to like. He's very, I don't know, he makes a lot of decisions and says a lot of things that are annoying, stupid, don't really make sense, and is very overall mean, and so all of that combines to make him like just not, I don't know, just very hard to like. And you know, I only like him when he says something funny or does something funny, I guess, but it's not, he does a lot more stupid things and annoying things than he does fun things. So that made it hard to like him, but he can be entertaining, and I say can, and I'd say like maybe 25% of the time he's He's engaging. He rank 25% of the time maybe he's entertaining, and then like 10%, 10 I guess 35% of the time, including that 25%, he's engaging, and then the rest he's kind of annoying and like stupid and mean and irrational. And not to say that you can't have a mean character that's unlikable, but like you just feel, or I mean, you can't have a mean character that is likable. I think you can have that, but I think it needs to be reasonable and like I don't know, either entertaining or reasonable. And a lot of the time I feel like Dan would be mean and unreasonable and just not entertaining with his meanness, and so that would make it like just not really enjoyable to listen to him do things. And I get that like part of his character is just how obnoxious of a jerk he is, and how like obnoxiously petty and just really just a jerk he is. And I get that that's kind of his thing, but it needs to be entertaining. It needs to be funny for it to be worthwhile. And if it's not, then it's just like he's being not funny, and he's also like a jerk. And so it just makes him really kind of hard to like. But he can be funny, and he can do funny things. But overall, if he was a side character, and if they made his things, they just need to. And maybe they'll fix it in the later seasons, but he just needs to be either make him funnier, or just make him less mean, or make his decisions more rational and relatable, I guess. You can still keep him being like obnoxiously petty and stuff, but it needs to be reasonable in the way he talks. And I'm speaking kind of broadly, but a lot of this is reflected in like individual lines he has. He almost seems like I don't know, like he just talks very weird. He has this crazy weird relationship with Chris, where it's like there's no reason, at least right now, that's been stated or seems really reasonable as to why Chris and Dan are friends, because Dan is just a complete jerk, and I don't know what Chris is getting out of any part of the relationship. Like, he's constantly helping him, and he's constantly getting abused by Dan, and I know it's been established that they've been having a friendship, even prior to them hanging out. But it feels so arbitrary. It feels like it's literally there just because it's just written that way. So I kind of forgot where I was going with that, but it just makes it. I have no idea where I was going with that, but now that we're talking about Chris, let's talk about Chris. So Chris has a really weird relationship with Dan, and it doesn't really make sense. I don't know why it's there, and it's just awkward. Like, anytime Dan is abusing him, which happens like 80% of the time, the vast majority of the time, Dan is being very abusive towards Chris. And it's usually not funny, and not that abuse can't be funny, but it's just the way they attempt humor and stuff. It's either just 6 out of 10, okay, I'm just listening to Dan yell at Chris, which is fine, or it's like Dan making just having a stupid line, that kind of thing, or being unreasonably or like unfathomably abusive towards Chris, where I'm like, I don't know why he's doing this. And like, it's weird because they also have like chummy moments, and that seems to be more common in the later episodes like they just have more moments where they'll I don't know, it seems like they're actually friends, and versus the one-sided Dan abusing Chris, and Chris just arbitrarily feeling like he needs to help Dan for some reason. And so that's Chris's relationship with Dan. And Chris as a character, he's not bad. It's just so much of him is with Dan, and his whole relationship with Dan just doesn't make any sense, and it's just hard. It's just weird because like, I don't know. It's just I don't know why he stays with Dan, and so much of the interactions they have together is not that entertaining or humorous. Um, there definitely are moments of humorousness and fun, but a lot of it is just Dan abusing Chris, and not that there are moments where Dan abuses Chris and it is funny, but most of it is just lame attempts at humor, I feel. And so yeah, and so that's most of Chris's character is his interactions with Dan, and a lot of those isn't funny. And so when Chris is away from Dan, he's pretty normal. I think he's okay. He's fine. And so when he's not with Dan, he's usually with his wife Elise, and those interactions are always pretty good, I'd say. I think Elise, I'll get to her later, but Elise is probably the best character in the show, at least from what I've seen so far. She's consistently entertaining, rarely says anything stupid or annoying. But yeah, most of his interactions with Elise, I think they're always pretty good. I don't think he usually says anything stupid, but or annoying. But yeah, he's pretty average overall. It's just so much of him is interacting with Dan, and it just doesn't make sense, and so I don't know. It just seems unreasonable and kind of, I don't know, annoying the way he interacts with Dan, and like how he's always helping him, and there's just no good reason to, or no good given reason. It'd be one thing if like there was an excuse or better, like at least I know why he is, but it doesn't feel like that. It just feels like it just feels like he's arbitrarily written to be Dan's friend, and he arbitrarily helps him out. And so yeah, that's most of his character. Elise is pretty awesome, pretty consistently entertaining. Rarely says anything stupid. Yeah, I pretty much covered that. Yeah, and then most of it is just random. The most of the TV cartoon is them. Yeah, Dan has a random issue that starts off the episode, and it's usually something weird and broad, like ninjas or Canada or beaches or something. And so he just finds some way to he gets angry about that thing, and then he's trying to come up with a plan to I guess exact revenge on whatever wronged him, and he always abuses Chris into helping him, and that's basically it. And Elise sometimes intervenes or interacts with them, not often enough, because yeah, if Elise was, I don't know, she seems to be getting more screen time in these later episodes, but still Dan and Chris are primarily the main characters, and they're not that entertaining. But yeah, so that's the TV show. And then usually things get resolved by the end, and usually kind of weirdly. But yeah, just because the show is written very weirdly, like I feel like the entire show is meant to be as a joke. There's never any, like, if anything that happens it has to be funny, or like that's why it's there. It's not there to serve any, like, there's a ton of flexibility with the narrative. Usually the only restrictions they have is like, okay, well, we have this problem, and so Dan needs to be working somehow at fixing this problem, I guess, and maybe they'll establish like, okay, this is how Dan's gonna get back at it, but it's very flexible with how he goes at getting back at it, and usually it's just him, I don't know, going from one thing to another, and like trying to get his plan to work, and it usually doesn't work the first time, and so, but I don't, it's just very flexible in that so much random stuff happens, and usually it's random because it needs to be funny or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm being very general and vague, and maybe I might be coming up with things to say that, like, maybe I need to collect my thoughts a bit more on, like, maybe it isn't that random, but the writing does feel very, like, the primary focus is always being funny, and the plot and the narrative bends around that rule. and so just really weird things will happen. Like it just feels out of place and kind of like, oh, okay, I guess this was the butt of the plot is like serves to, I don't even know if I'm using this right, but the plot serves to make jokes and be the butt of the joke, and if you have to sacrifice the plot or whatever for a joke, that's gonna happen. But yeah, and so yeah, that's I guess that's basically everything. Yeah, the animation is very low quality. I mean, it's not terrible, but uh it is noticeably not good. But yeah, I don't know how it doesn't really affect like it doesn't necessarily make the rating, my score of the show go down, because sometimes it can be entertaining and weird just how poor the animation is. It can be like, wow, this is I don't know, sometimes it can add to the show just how weird the animation is. But and I don't often watch them anyways, so even if it was bad, I primarily listen to them instead of watching, so it wouldn't be a big deal either ways. But yeah, so I think that's basically everything, and maybe I'll I don't know, I got some time, so maybe I'm gonna drink some water. I'll talk a little bit about Littlest Pet Shop. So, with Littlest Pet Shop, again, that was a show I watched, and I guess I didn't really say this about My Little Pony, but I guess it's not really relevant. But I did watch a lot of My Little Pony a long time ago when I was a wee one. But and I did watch Littlest Pet Shop, but yeah, that was when I was a wee one as well. But revisiting both, My Little Pony, at least these first season 1 episodes that I'm watching, are not great or worthwhile. I think the animation is very pleasant and nice and memorable, and it's got a very nice and pleasant look to it. But that's the biggest thing it has going for it. Littlest Pet Shop, though, it's what I said. It's about My Little Pony. It's My Little Pony without lame drama and funnier jokes, I guess. It's not terribly funnier. It's like only slightly funnier, and it doesn't have as many highs as Dan Versus has, but it also doesn't have as many lows. Most of the jokes in Littlest Pet Shop don't hit, but they're not as offensive, I don't think. And again, it's that whole like kids show maybe, and it helps that none of the characters are abusive, or their relationships aren't like their interactions and relationships make sense versus Dan Versus, and Dan with Chris, though it just doesn't jive as well. So that kind of helps in Littlest Pet Shop. But yeah, the jokes aren't all good in Littlest Pet Shop, but there are more good ones, and I find myself smiling for, I don't know, at least I found one episode in particular. It was it was like episode 4, episode 8, where I don't know, something where Sunil, the blue mongoose, was like telling Blythe where to go with his psychic powers, except he was not confident. I don't know. It just had a lot of funny interaction moments I thought were entertaining. And maybe I'll score that one, do a reaction video to that one too. I don't know. It wasn't really necessary to single that one out. It has a few. From the episodes I've watched, and I haven't watched many. I've watched like 4 or 5 now, maybe. Maybe not even that much. Maybe like 3 or 4. But from those 3 or 4 of I want to say season 1 or season 2. I think probably season 1. And not in order. But from the ones I've watched, it's just it's not bad. I'm not it's again, yeah, it's like in between My Little Pony and Dan Versus, but the fact that it's not as annoying with the interactions, like it doesn't have a Dan and Chris problem, and it doesn't really have as big of a writing problem, I feel like the writing is still weird, and you can tell that characters make decisions revolving around, what the writers want to happen, and so they'll be unreasonable or unrational sometimes. But I don't know, it doesn't feel as bad. and it so I don't know, maybe it's the fact that it like tries to have a plot a bit more for each episode, makes it somewhat more enjoyable, maybe. And so that maybe that helps. And yeah, just there are no really annoying characters, or yeah, it doesn't really have any lows like Dan versus have. And again, a lot of failing jokes in Littlest Pet Shop, but like My Little Pony, I just don't find myself being offended by them, I guess, or like not feeling as bored or annoyed by them when they occur. Versus in Dan versus, I get more annoyed and like, oh wow, I can't believe that was in there. And so yeah, so that's interesting comparing Littlest Pet Shop to Dan versus. Yeah, I don't know. I'm at the 40-minute mark, so I'll probably end that talk there. Maybe I'll. Yeah. Anyways, I don't even know how much that added giving those comparisons, but I just thought it was interesting. I've been thinking about comparing them, and I don't know, just how I like each, and what they do differently and stuff. But yeah, giving Dan versus a score. I don't even know if I've clarified how I give scores, and it's pretty consistent across like video games and shows as well. But I've got a different scoring anyways, yeah, so I don't know if I've clarified this, but when I say something's a 6 out of 10, a 6 out of 10 is like, maybe I should just make a separate video for this. I guess I'll just clarify whatever I feel like this by the end. I'll make a separate video about how I score things maybe. But yeah, I'll give this Dan versus I don't know, it's really tough. Maybe a 5.5 to 6 out of 10. Ugh, gosh. Maybe just a flat. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. A 6 out of 10. It's pleasant. It's stimulating. I'd rather listen to that than nothing. It's engaging. It can make me smile. It's got a lot of lows, and it's not worth. You're definitely not missing anything if you don't watch it, but it does provide humor that can be hard to find. Or I don't know. I feel like lately I've been having a hard time finding shows that are humorous and like I don't know, make me smile or whatever. And so at least the show does that some of the time, and so I feel like that's worth something. So yeah, I don't know. A 6 out of 10. It's pleasant. It's enjoyable, but you're not missing anything if you don't watch it. I don't think. Yeah. I guess it's closer to a 6.5, maybe. But yeah, I'll stick with a 6 out of 10. So, yeah, that's Dan versus. I don't think there's anything else I feel like talking about. But, yeah. Dan versus. And maybe I'll score an episode, or I'll react to an episode and score it line by line, maybe. I don't know. We'll see what happens.